So in this section we're going to be talking about planning, basic planning for a scene. And that's pretty big stuff. For me, honestly, that's one huge tip in animation. It's like, how do you get your work up onto the screen? And how do you make it look so good? People want to know that all the time. And the number one key principle for me is to plan my scenes, is to really have a clear idea of where I want to go with that scene before I even start.
The scenes that I have gotten through the quickest, the easiest, and that have turned out the best are invariably the scenes that I have done the most work planning ahead for.
Planning out my scenes and thumbnailing out my shots, it really gives me a sense that I'm exploring and I'm feeling more like an artist, because we are, as animators, we're artists. And it's important to feel that. If we're just pushing buttons, then we'll just become technicians. And it's important to really explore the art as it is, and to make sure that you feel like an artist inside, that you're pushing yourself, that you're really pushing your work. So planning might be seen as self-indulgent, but heck yeah, I mean, that's the kind of self-indulgence I want as an artist. I want to keep pushing myself to improve, to learn and get better, and to be inspired. I think that's a huge key factor in staying inspired and wanting to do this every day, is because you realize that there's so many different ways you could possibly do something. And when you challenge yourself as an artist and you say, you know what, I'm actually going to try my best to come up with something totally different and maybe entertaining, that's just exciting. That's the artist part of us as animators.
I'm a huge planner, huge. I mean, it's something that you have to know exactly what you're doing before you do it. I want to get into the shot so much that once I start doing that, I know my poses, I know my animation in my head, then I start thumbnailing it. And then I'll probably even start timing some of it, either with a stopwatch or in my head, and I'll do spacing charts, and I'll know exactly where my poses are, and I'll even do on an X sheet, I'll write down my poses, where they're going to be. So in my mind, I've animated the shot and I haven't even touched the computer. A lot of people, especially a lot of people starting out, don't understand that. As soon as they get a shot, man, they want to dig in on it and start messing with it and put in the pose, and it shows, I think.
In this class we're going to be going over 7 different planning methods. Visualization, your first idea, observation, thumbnailing, video reference, feedback, and finally what the director wants. It's important to know that you're not going to be using all these areas right off the bat in your animation, but it's a good idea for you guys to just start thinking about all the different ideas and different ways to plan a shot. So the first method that I'd like to talk about is visualization. Visualization is one of those methods that you can use no matter what. And a lot of times I hear people say that I don't have enough time to plan. I gotta crank out 30 seconds of animation a week, which a lot of game animators have to do. But visualization is literally an amazing tool for you, and it doesn't take a lot of time to do. And ultimately what it means is closing your eyes. If you have dialogue in your shot, it's really easy. You just loop the dialogue and you listen to it over and over and over again. Close your eyes and you start to visualize what this character is going to be doing, the actions that they're going to be taking, the different acting choices that you could think about. And it's great because it doesn't take a lot of time. There's not a huge investment involved, but there's a big investment involved in that you're really trying to work out the performance in your head ahead of time. And so that's the first part of visualization. And then from there what you want to do is to kind of capture your thoughts on paper. And we'll talk about thumbnails a little bit later, but really what you want to do is to kind of capture the words, like he enters from this screen and he gestures with his right hand, and just kind of capture all that. And then from there what I do is I kind of close my eyes and I kind of play out the idea over and over, and I kind of start whittling that idea into one single performance that I can repeat over and over in my head, so I can kind of see it all play out. And that method for me is really huge. It doesn't take a lot of time, and I don't just usually use that method. I use some of the other methods that we'll be talking about in conjunction with it. But if you really practice this idea, it can be extremely powerful for you. With pantomime shots, it's great because you can really kind of explore all these different ideas that your character can do. And one note that I really want to stress here that the mentors also want me to stress is that you guys got to keep it super simple. I mean, in the beginning, everybody wants to go nuts and to go do everything and put everything in their shot. So visualization, you start visualizing like, okay, character's going to come in and flip and do all this stuff, and you just got to kind of edit yourself and kind of cut a lot of those ideas out and really get a performance that's going to read clearly to the audience ultimately. So visualization is great because you can kind of write down your 1,000 ideas that you have and just start cutting them out, cut, and then close your eyes again and really play out that action in your head.
The first idea is usually based on cliche or based on your gut instinct, which is kind of something that we like to trust in animation, but at the same time I still believe that exploring the opportunities that you might have in a scene by just kind of taking a few moments to see, is this the right thing? Is this the only thing to do? Well, what if I tried it this totally different way? And what would I get out of it if I tried it this different way?
So let's take a moment to talk about instincts. Instincts are going to be your best friend as an animator. However, in the beginning, just like when you're doing something new, like say you're working out and you get, you're building muscles and stuff. In the beginning, those muscles are pretty flabby, and then you start working out after a while and they get stronger. And the way that you can kind of help that along is through like a personal trainer. And so it's the same thing is true in animation. Your personal trainer are your peers. So in the beginning, when you're coming up and you're doing this animation, you're thinking like, oh, this feels right. Trust that instinct, but double check that instinct by tapping into your peers, and they're going to kind of keep you in check. And then as time goes on, your instincts are going to evolve, and you're going to be able to just like really trust your instincts and go like, this is what I feel is right for the shot, and you'll be more confident in that. So in the beginning, understand that you might be a little uncertain about, is this the right idea or not, and really tap into your peers for that. And then as the time goes on, you'll get more comfortable with it, but I still encourage you, no matter how comfortable you get with your instincts, to always share that with your peers as well. Share your ideas, because it's just like another set of eyes on there, okay? So they will evolve. Take the time and understand that. And really do listen to what you feel is right for the shot, because ultimately that will be one of your best tools that you can use as an animator.
I take note of the first thing that comes to me. Like, if I get inspired by it, I'll be like, oh, it could be this! And I'll like, immediately like do a thumbnail, or memorize what I'm doing. And it's like, and then I put that aside. Like that was like my first impression. And then my first inspiration. And then I'll put that aside. And then I'll keep thumbnailing out different ways to do it.
The stuff that I see at my work that stands out is stuff that people have taken a little bit of time to think about it a little bit more and take it to that next level. They didn't just go with their first gut instinct. Now, it's important to acknowledge that gut instinct, and maybe in the end you will go with that, but it's nice to just explore, because when I do that, I know that I find many more roads, many different avenues that I could go down. It can go a million different ways, and if I just take the first road, the first instinct that I have, I don't know, maybe I'm cheating myself. And when I explore and take that extra time, it does make me feel more like an artist, and it makes me feel more satisfied with my work in the end.
I think it's really important to take a moment to define what cliché is. Wikipedia defines cliché as an idea that has been overused to the point of losing its intended force or novelty, especially when at some point in time it was considered distinctly forceful or novel. So basically, it's an idea that's been overused, and it's an idea that, yeah, it worked at one point in time, but it might not work for today's context. And so one of the things that, when I think about cliché, some of the biggest clichés that I see in animation is like hands on the hips. When the character's like just standing there, they put hands on the hips. I mean, Buzz Lightyear does that, and it's great, but you see it so often, it's a little overdone. It doesn't really have much power anymore. Another one is pointing, when the character's like, hey, look at that. I think it's okay, but it is a little cliche. I mean, if it works and that's perfect for the shot, then great. And another one is like the character scratching their head when they're thinking. it's so important to think beyond that stuff. Really, those are the big like cliches for me, and there's lots of other ones that, you know, like doing poses like this a lot and stuff, like I don't know, or poses like this out a lot, and we talk about those poses as well. I mean, it's just trying to think beyond what you typically see. You know, don't just copy other animation because it looks cool. There's a shot that I can use as a reference that was amazing and is absolutely amazing, but it's just been so overdone now that it's lost the impact. It's a shot that Ollie Johnston did on The Jungle Book, where Baloo's thinking and he kind of puts his hand up here and he's like, I don't know. And it's insane, it's amazing. He's trying to contemplate like what's going on with Mowgli. He's got to take him to the man village and all that part. It's just great, and you got to check out that shot for sure. At the time that shot was done, nothing had ever been done like that before, and it was so powerful, and people talked about that shot forever because it really took personality animation to a whole new level. It was something that was real. It wasn't just scratching the head. It was like something that was like, you know, this character was thinking a little bit more, and at that time it was so powerful. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen that done now in animation, and instantly when I see it, bam, it takes me out of the film and I think Jungle Book, and I see it. I've seen it so many times in a lot of Disney films as well, where they repeat that gesture. So it's just, I think about today, like what do people do today? What's current with our culture today? Like, culture has changed so much, right? I mean, if you look at what was going on when they did The Jungle Book versus today, I mean, come on. I mean, it's a whole different world, and you know, it's tapping into that world. You know, if somebody's thinking, you know, even if there's no dialogue, you know, they might get more stressed out, like visually stressed, like, you know, these kinds of things that you can tap into that we can relate to. Whereas back in the day, you know, people would hold their stress in because it was bad to show it. Now it's like everything's open and outward and exposed. So it's like use ideas that work for today's standards and look at things. Like, I think Talk Soup is like amazing. It's like actually one of my favorite TV shows, and it's great because they pull out all the little snippets. You can find it on YouTube as well, of like things that are happening on TV, like the most ridiculous things, and you'll just find crazy ideas in there, gestures and weird things that it was like, wow, I would have never thought about that to animate, but it's stuff that's very current in our culture. So it's just something that I want you guys to be aware of for wherever you are in the world and your different culture that you might be in, is to try to really tap into that and use ideas that are current, and don't just copy like what you've seen because it's cool because Pixar did it. You know, make your own animation and make it unique.
Observation is one of those areas that just keeps me wanting to be an animator. It's really helped me to enjoy life on so many different levels and helped me to unlock so many hidden treasures in my mind of things and experiences that have happened to me in my life. It's one of those things that we take for granted, but once we start to unlock observation in our life as animators, it's what really makes me come to work every day, because I know that it's so exciting and there's so many potential ideas and things that I could put into my work, that observation unlocks those doors and the possibilities become endless.
Still definitely observe, and I think that you always have to be. You always have to be looking at stuff and slamming on the brakes. We don't want to get a ticket.
So I really think of observation as having two main areas. Firstly, it's all about learning how to unlock all those experiences from your past, your history, maybe special moments that happened to you when you were a little kid, little moments with that, dreams you may have had, just the way you saw the world, all the special ways that you maybe saw the world, all those feelings that you had inside, maybe the first time you laid eyes on, the first time you fell in love, that special person, and all those feelings is a really big source for us, for inspiration as animators. It's what really makes our work stand out and not feel like a textbook, that we're just following some rules. It's the thing that makes our work more special. The second part of observation is learning how to see the world around you as it exists now. You begin to actually see how things move, and you begin to see what actually motivates an action. Simple things like a footstep become so amazing because you begin to see how spectacular these things are. They were always spectacular, but now you can enjoy them and you actually have a reason to want to open your eyes and take in everything that's happening around you. I remember when I was animating Boo on Monsters, and I would go out to dinner or whatever, I'd be with my wife or friends, and as soon as I heard a child's voice, my attention just immediately went to that direction, and I just became locked. No matter what the conversation was about, I just immediately was sucked into that. And I guess that's because at that time, that's what I was kind of focusing on, that's what I was animating. But in general, you just start to look at life and look at the things around you in such a new way, such a big, exciting way, because you really see, wow, this is stuff that I can eventually put into my work.
My wife actually gets annoyed at me sometimes. She thinks I have attention deficit disorder, because we'll be out at dinner and we'll be talking, but I'm always, my mind's always wandering to all these different things, and she's like, "What are you doing? What are you talking?" And I'm like, "I can't even tell you because it just sounds so stupid." And she's like, "Why? What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, this leaf was falling from a tree over there, and I just thought it was really interesting the way." And I was just kind of thinking about how the different forces were acting on it, and how it was sort of it didn't obviously fall straight down. It kind of went like this, and I was trying to predict where it was going to land based on the stuff like this. And I was thinking about, gee, if I ever was going to, animate a leaf falling, I should remember this moment, and blah, blah. And she's like, "All right, that's fine. You can stop talking now." And she's like, "Okay, I'm sorry I asked."
The most important thing is to be able to experience and observe life. Life, it's all about life, what goes around away from the computer. The computer is merely just a tool. It's just like a pencil would be. To express yourself. So you got to look at it that way. It's one thing to master your tool, because then you can really get everything out of it. But to really make your work successful, that people have to be able to relate to it. And people relate to things that they experience in life.
It's the difference between good animation and bad animation. Little things like when you see a car like stop, and how it always goes, little things like that. And you or I'll watch count, well, how many times does it, when a car stops, how many times does it go back and forth and back and forth? Does it go, or does it just go, or does it go back 1, 2, 3? Sometimes I'll sit there, 1, 2, 3, little things like that. So it's just, and all that stuff, it sounds goofy, it sounds just like insane, but but you never know. It's just inspiration and education just comes in the most, in the strangest places.